Welcome to the awards presentation at the 2020 State of the Science Congress. I am Nancy Farnwell, Dean and Professor at Texas A&M University College of Nursing and Counselor of Membership and Chair of the Awards Subcommittee for CANS. I am honored to present the winners of the 2020 CANS Awards for Brilliant New Investigator and Outstanding Nurse Scientist. Every 2 years, the CANS Awards Subcommittee is tasked with selecting the best of the best and identifying one early career and one senior career nurse scientist to receive these awards. As in years past, this year's committee was faced with a daunting task, as the caliber of the nominees was nothing short of exceptional. That said, I am pleased to introduce you to this year's winners. The Brilliant New Investigator Award recognizes the contributions of scientists early in their research careers who show extraordinary potential to develop sustained programs of research, certain to have a significant impact on nursing science and improving health and wellness. This year's winner, Dr. Teresa Brockie, is a member of the Aaninen Nation, Fort Belknap Reservation, Montana, and a third-year tenure-track assistant professor at Johns Hopkins School of Nursing, with a joint appointment as an associate scientist at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg Center for American Indian Health. She is one of 25 Native Americans in the U.S. with a PhD in nursing, and one of 6 inducted to the American Academy of Nursing. Her research focuses on achieving health equity through community-based prevention and intervention for suicide, trauma, and adverse childhood experiences among vulnerable populations. She is principal investigator or co-investigator on several projects, including 2 R01s. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Brockie.
My name is Teresa Brockie. I am Aanenen from the Fort Belknap Reservation in Montana. I am an assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing with a joint appointment as a research associate in the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, Center for American Indian Health, in the Department of International Health. I am a public health nurse. I respectfully acknowledge and give thanks to the Piscataway tribe, the indigenous people who are traditional owners of the Chesapeake Bay region. The goal of my research is to develop interventions using cultural strengths to address trauma, suicide, and violence in resource-poor indigenous communities, and to provide opportunities and mentorship for future generations of indigenous nurses and researchers. COVID-19 has exposed foundational structural disparities, such as 40% of Navajo Nation households not having access to running water and 30% not having electricity, which has contributed to one of the highest per capita case rates in the United States. These structural disparities must be addressed to achieve health equity. Thank you to the Council for the Advancement of Nursing Science, American Academy of Nursing, for this award. I extend gratitude to the National Institutes of Mental Health, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and the Alliance for a Healthier World for their support through grant funding. I am especially thankful to my family, an amazing research team, Dean Patricia Davidson, Phyllis Sharps, Mona Chattel, for their support, and mentors Jackie Campbell and Allison Barlow. Thank you.
The Outstanding Nurse Scientist Award acknowledges a CANS member whose sustained program of research has had significant impact on nursing and healthcare knowledge development. This year's winner, Dr. Eun-Ok, is an internationally known scholar in the field of global cross-cultural women's health research, addressing gender and ethnic differences in health illness experience of midlife women. Currently, Dr. Im is the Senior Associate Dean of Research and Innovation, Nell Hodgson-Woodruff School of Nursing at Emory University. Over the course of her career, she has established herself as a pioneer in the use of emerging technologies to study the experiences of ethnic minority women and to eliminate gender and ethnic disparities globally. She has obtained more than $17.5 million in research funding and has gained international recognition as a leader in this expanding field through more than 370 publications and over 320 international and national multidisciplinary presentations. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Im.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I am so thrilled to receive the CAN's Outstanding Nurse Scientist Award. It is my greatest honor to join the prestigious group of outstanding nurse scientists. As a researcher, I have a belief that nursing should be on the front line to reduce health disparities. In my junior year in the BSM program in 1980s, I was struggling with my internal conflict if I should continue to pursue nursing or not. At the time, one of my former professors said that the reason for nursing is we are the one who is on the front line to protect human beings from all sorts of health disparities. That planted a seed in my heart, and that is the reason that I continue to pursue nursing and have focused on racial and ethnic disparities in midwifery women's health throughout my research career. Because of this, naturally, I got attracted to postmodern feminist approaches, as you can guess. Also, I have witnessed increasing diversities and complexities in nursing phenomenon during the past several decades. The use of computer and mobile technologies could provide a systematic and effective approach to the diversities and complexities. For instance, only among Asian Americans, we have over 80 sub-ethnic groups. So it is virtually impossible to incorporate all the diversities and complexities without computer and mobile technologies. Also, these technologies allowed me to nationally reach out marginalized racial and ethnic minority populations through non-face-to-face interactions. Additionally, one of the benefits of using computer and mobile technologies during this crazy pandemic is I may be one of the few researchers whose research has not been greatly affected by the COVID-19, although there have been some impacts. So when new technologies are available to reach out my research population and deliver my interventions more effectively, I will definitely add a new method into my research. I believe being open to all new methods and technologies will advance nursing science in this ever-changing environment. Anyway, through this opportunity, I want to say thanks to many people involved in my research career and my life as a researcher, including, of course, the CANs and my nominators, all my mentors and collaborators, all my research team members and mentees, all my research participants, all my research funders, my parents, of course, my husband, and my daughter, who is now a PhD candidate and understands how difficult but productive and meaningful a researcher's life could be. Finally, I want to say thanks to God who allowed me to be a nurse scientist. Thanks to all.
We now have the wonderful opportunity to learn more from both Drs. Im and Brockie. As we consider the priority of advancing health equity and reducing disparities through our research, both of our award winners have tremendous experience in building a more equitable future. So I'd like to start with questions for Dr. Im. Over the course of your career, your research has been described as feminist-driven. How did you come to mold this philosophical and theoretical guide to your work? And was there a moment in your career that set you on this trajectory?
Thanks for the question.
As I mentioned in my award acceptance remark, I have a belief that the reason for the existence of nursing is we are the one who protects human beings from all sorts of health disparities and oppressions. So with the belief, when I was in my PhD program as a novice, very novice researcher, I was looking for the right philosophical and theoretical perspectives that could support my stance as a researcher. And because my focus was at the time specifically on the oppressive experience of low-income Korean immigrant women who had health disparities due to their gender and race ethnicity, I was naturally attracted to feminism, specifically postmodern feminism that respects diversities and complexities of women's health and illness experience, and that target to eliminate disparities and oppression in women's health experience. So obviously, my goal as a nurse researcher was consistent with the philosophical stance of postmodern feminism. So since then, I have used this postmodern feminist stance throughout my research career during the past 25 years. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, my next question is about the pandemic. The pandemic has changed how we conduct our research and deliver healthcare, most notably the need to quickly adopt technology such as telehealth. You have consistently used technology in your body of work. What direction do you see the future of research heading, and how will it impact funding priorities?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. The COVID-19 has brought lots of changes in research process. And now almost everybody is using computers and mobile devices for data collection in their research, mainly because of social distancing. So I think this change will continue even after the COVID-19 is over. And as a researcher who have used the computer and mobile technologies for the past 25 years, this is actually great news to me. And I mean, looking back on it, it was really terrible. But when I started to use an internet survey in late 1990s, I was harshly criticized. Actually, some said that what kinds of reasonable researchers could conduct a research on the internet because of all unknown factors and potential biases. But now we are very familiar with internet surveys, and nobody criticizes a researcher about the use of internet in their research. And moreover, with the strong push by the pandemic situation, I'm pretty sure that the use of computer and mobile technologies would be essential and ubiquitous in nursing research in the near future. Indeed, during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen an increasing number of program announcements related to digital platform and digital interventions from all funding agencies, including NIH. So there is an Asian saying that we should lower boat when water comes in. So for a while, I think researchers who are using these technologies would drastically increase and enjoy the current flow of funding and high priorities on the use of these technologies. But actually, I'm not sure about the changes in long-term funding priorities in the NIH, because funding priorities could be greatly influenced by so many factors, including socio-political context of funding agencies. Also, once these technologies become one of the usual methods in nursing research, then innovation of these technologies would disappear. Then I think other new methods and technologies would appear in nursing world. So as a researcher using technologies, I think being open to new methods and technologies should continue throughout our research career. So I hope this answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Technology is here to stay, so embrace it. So what is one piece of advice that you would offer early career nurse scientists that you wish you would have known as you were starting out?
Well, when I was an early career nurse scientist, I tended to focus on my research rather than my family. So although my daughter doesn't remember her childhood very well, which is very fortunate to me, I feel very sorry for her all the time. So I want to advise early career nurse scientists to focus on their research, but at the same time, try to spend more time with their family, especially with their young children. They will grow very quickly.
Thank you for that wise advice. All right, questions for Dr. Brockie. Your work is grounded in community-based prevention, and you've centered your research on improving the lives of Native American youth. How have your experiences driven the development of your research questions?
So thank you for the question. My research in general is framed by my lived experiences, the lessons I learned and the stories I've heard from my mother, especially my mother and my grandmother, about the survival and strength of our people inform my research. That is why it is critically important for schools of nursing to recruit students from underrepresented minority groups and from rural communities. My dissertation focused on identifying risk and protective factors for youth suicide on the Fort Peck Reservation in Montana. And some of that selection of concepts were informed by my lived experience. Through that research, we found education engagement, tribal identity, and group efficacy provided protection from high-risk substance use. We also found historical trauma to be risk factors for suicide ideation and attempts. Without that lived experience, we would have perhaps missed those concepts.
All right, thank you. So you have a pandemic question too, a little different. But the pandemic is exposing the devastating inequities in healthcare, and you've been investigating solutions to address these stark disparities of care. How do you see the future of healthcare and research changing because of what the pandemic has further highlighted?
So that's a really important question for right now as well. Unfortunately, the disparities that have been exposed have been present for a very long time. And it really matters very little if we continue to use the same approach that we have for many years. We're not going to see a change. We're not going to make a difference in ways that we want to and in ways that communities want us to. So in addition to exposing the devastating inequities in healthcare, it also exposed the really pronounced within group health disparities. So when we do our work, we need to take a step further to identify those communities that are at greatest risk, whether it's COVID or any health outcome. Then the important change that we can make is to get the funding and resources where it is most needed. If we are, again, to have any impact on morbidity and mortality. Otherwise, it'll just stay the same. It'll be more of the same. For example, there's when you look at Indian Health Service and Native Americans who receive care through that system, there's an almost tenfold difference between the highest and lowest rates of suicide mortality among the 12 IHS Indian Health Service areas. So underscoring again the significant within group differences for suicide among Native Americans, but we don't account for those differences when we develop interventions and when we allocate resources. We consider them all the same. And so with that way of doing things, we won't see a difference in again, morbidity and mortality. And then the fact that the Navajo Nation has one of the highest per capita COVID-19 rates in the United States and that 30 to 40% of Navajo families do not have electricity or running water. And we are not talking about it more or doing something about it is a big part of the problem. So we know that where we are born, where we live, work, and age has a huge impact on health disparities. And until we take a better look at that and consider in terms of resource allocation, we won't make a difference. It'll just stay the same. Thank you.
Thank you. So you have accomplished really many great successes early on in your career. What advice would you offer other early career nurse scientists as they strive for similar career milestones?
So I will speak specifically to the Indigenous or Native American scholars because there are only about 25 to 30 Native American nurses with a PhD in the United States, even less who are engaged in research. So, but it's really important for us as a people if we want to see improvements in Native American health. So what I would suggest is to find a mentor or 2 or 10, someone who can help direct you. Learn from others who have paved the path ahead of us or ahead of you, and do work that will have a positive impact on those that most need it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a nice segue to a question that I would like to ask both of you. Dr. M, what was the most valuable advice you ever received from a mentor?
In my career, there are so many mentors. So I was thinking, whom should I choose? But I can think of advice from my longtime mentor, Dr. Pafumelis, who was the former dean at UPenn. She was actually my PhD dissertation chair. So when I got my PhD degree, she gave me a book entitled Don't Sweat on Small Things, and advised me not to give too much attention to small things. And actually the advice has been so helpful throughout my research career. And as a researcher, we tend to focus on small things and details and suffer from many small things that eventually would go away. So whenever I have an issue, I try to think if this is a small thing that I could easily ignore, or if this is a big thing that I should give my special attention. So that helped me a lot during my journey as a researcher. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Brockie, what was the most valuable advice you ever received from a mentor?
Well, it's probably 2 things I think that are really important. The first being really simple, but sometimes a challenge. Don't ever give up. Keep pushing, even when it gets difficult. And then the other thing is when you find that success, you reach back and you help someone else along that path. And that's how we encourage and engage and mentor the next generation of Indigenous scholars.
Thank you. So for both of you, Dr. M, when you have experienced roadblocks in your career, what helped you overcome them?
Whenever I experience roadblocks, I assured my staff by saying, this too shall pass away. But at the same time, I try to find the best strategies to avoid the roadblocks or to minimize the impact of roadblocks through searching for advice from my mentors, colleagues, and family members and friends, and sometimes from books, which helped a lot in breaking the roadblocks in most cases. Also, to me, praying was very helpful, especially when my grant proposals were not funded. And most of all, I think being positive has been greatly helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Brockie, when you experienced roadblocks in your career, what helped you overcome them?
Okay, so when I encounter challenges or roadblocks, is when I most lean on our Ani or my culture and the strengths the teachings provide. I have learned so much from my mother and my father and my grandmothers and my grandfathers about overcoming challenges and roadblocks. I lean heavily on those teachings to live my life and to inform my science.
Thank you. All right, the final question for both of you. What hope do you have for the future of our profession and our science? Dr. Eun?
Again, I believe that the reason for the existence of nursing is we are the one on the front line who protects human beings from all sorts of health disparities. So unless we lose this essential reason for nursing, we'll prosper until human beings disappear on the earth. And actually, people are saying that most of human occupations and professions, including healthcare providers, will be replaced with robots in the near future. But I don't think these technologies could replace the essence of nursing. So later, I think we need to be open to new technologies and subsequent changes in nursing environment and use these technologies and changes to strengthen nursing. So in my crystal ball, I think as long as we do what we are supposed to do, and as long as we are open to new technologies and changes, I think the future of nursing profession and research will be bright. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Brockie, what hope do you have for the future of our profession and our science?
So the COVID pandemic has taught us so much about being better neighbors, friends, and allies. It has taught many of us to be kinder human beings. It has also highlighted the important work of nurses and nursing science. And for that work, our work, we should all be thankful. And that's what provides me hope.
Well, thank you, both of you, and congratulations to Drs. Brockie and Eun on this momentous accomplishment, and thank you for joining us for this presentation. We are honored to present you with these awards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.